Extra Point with Ryan Justice is sponsored by The Phone Medic. For the best in cell phone, tablet, or laptop repairs, The Phone Medic is the only choice for you. The Phone Medic also offers gaming PCs and laptops for both gamers and everyday users. Visit one of the 3 Phone Medic locations in Amarillo, Canyon, and their new location in Lubbock today. Hello, football fans! Welcome to The Extra Point with Ryan Justice. That would all help if my mic was on. How's it going, guys? One of those nights. Welcome to The Extra Point with Ryan Justice. Again, like I was saying before, I got my sound turned on. Week 8 in the books, chaotic week. There is a lot of trades, injuries, teams upsetting, making big changes all across the league as we reach the halfway point of the season. Before we get started, guys, hit that like and subscribe button. Get the notifications. Let's share. Get the word out, guys. Want to get more and more people involved. Just me tonight. Andy is out sick, so let's get that comment section going. Be sure to interact, guys. I want to hear all your takes. I want to hear what you guys have to say. Who you're cheering for, rep your team, all of it, guys. Bring it on in the comment section. Again, shout out to my sponsor, the Phone Medic of Amarillo, Canyon, and Lubbock. For you guys needing tech repair, cell phones, laptops, gaming PCs, tablets, anything like that, go to the Phone Medic of Amarillo, Canyon, and Lubbock. They can get you hooked up with a new phone, tablet, laptop, gaming PC, any kind of tech you need. Go to Gabe. Tell him Ryan from The Extra Point sent you. Well, guys, let's go ahead and get right into hot topics. There is a lot to talk about. Coming out of today in the NFL. As we near the trade deadline on Tuesday, the Ravens go ahead and make a trade. They make a trade for Diontae Johnson, seeing that they do need some help at the wide receiver position after they lost to Cleveland this past Sunday. They may also still be active in the market for secondary help and edge rusher help. They need that as well. But the Ravens making a trade for Diontae Johnson. He was rumored to be on the block as the trade deadline neared. The Panthers trading for him. I believe they traded him for a 5th or 6th round pick to move him out of Carolina. He had been making some noise too about kind of being unhappy in Carolina, not being happy with the situation. Of course, Carolina's season has not gone well at all. But Diontae Johnson, he adds another dynamic. He adds some depth to this Ravens team that has been kind of dynamic in their offense. Definitely one of the better offenses in the league. They're actually the number 1 offense in the league. Over 450 yards a game. And they're going to add a speed threat. They're going to add a guy who can go out and make some good catches in Diontae Johnson. Sticking with wide receivers, Stefon Diggs, who had a non-contact injury in the Texans game on Sunday. It's confirmed to be the worst, an ACL. Stefon Diggs out for the year. He restructured his contract, voided the last 3 years of his contract to be a free agent after this season. 8 games in, he goes down for the year with the Houston Texans. Hadn't quite been the game changer that he had hoped to be for the Texans. A lot of people were saying this could be the addition that put them over the top. He was looking to be kind of get a change of scenery, shrug off the attitude cloud that had been hanging over his head. But Diggs kind of, he wasn't scared to take a back seat to Nico Collins, but when Collins went down with injury, he stepped up to be the number 1 receiver. He was leading the Texans in receptions. He has 496 yards, 3 touchdowns on the season. But Stephon Diggs' year is over in Houston, and he will have a decision to make at the end of the season. We'll be hearing more about that in March. But now the question goes, what do the Texans do at wide receiver? D'Amico Ryans today in his press conference was signaling that the Texans were going to be staying pat. They weren't going to be adding anything. I know that there's been names like Deontay Johnson was floated around to go to Houston, but that got squashed pretty quick. Almost right as D'Amico Ryans was taking the podium to update everyone going into their game on Thursday night, the Deontay Johnson trade was finalized. So, we'll see what the Texans do. I feel like they need more inside line help. They need more guard help than they do at the wide receiver position. And D'Amico Ryans, again, he kind of signaled that the team was going to stand pat, stick with, John Mechie, Xavier Hutchinson, Robert Woods. And then, of course, Nico's coming back. He'll be back after this game, hopefully for the Lions game in a couple weeks. But, yeah, Stephon Diggs out for the year and free agent at the end of the season. So that's going to beg the question. I think the likelihood of him coming back to Houston is better because he was very well liked in the organization. And I believe he may even take a pay cut to stay with the organization so that way they can kind of keep some of their pieces together. But we'll see in March. That's for the future, and the Texans are going to be focused on the here and now. We go from people's seasons ending to someone's season getting started. The Niners go into their bye week, and reports are coming out that the Niners are beginning to ramp up Christian McCaffrey to return, adding an extra practice on the bye week, I believe, to get CMC integrated, get him going, so that way he can pick up and get back for their next game, which I believe, let me get to the Niners page real quick. Let me get to the Niners schedule real quick. The Niners' next game is going to be against Tampa Bay, and they could definitely use him. They've been injured up and down. Of course, Brandon Ayuk going out for the year. They've had injuries on the defense, but Christian McCaffrey coming back is going to be a huge boost for this San Francisco team, who is currently looking at third place in the division, staring up at Arizona of our second place in the division with the Seattle loss. I apologize, but staring up at Arizona, who has surprisingly taken the lead in this division at 4-4 in a tight division. But getting Christian McCaffrey back is going to add such a dynamic to this Niners team, especially with the emergence of Jordan Mason, because now there's a dual threat in the backfield with both Mason and McCaffrey, and we see how much McCaffrey brings to this offense. They've been banged up, but the Niners, getting healthy, getting their biggest weapon back for the second half of the season, and we'll see if he suits up in Tampa Bay after their bye week, but it's looking like Christian McCaffrey is going to come back sooner rather than later. And with that, we're going to get into game reactions. We started off Thursday night with the Vikings and the Rams, and I'm not going to lie, I had the Vikings picked in this one, and I thought it might actually be a blowout. But instead, we get the kind of surprise news that both Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp were going to end up back, and boy, did they help out. They brought life into this Rams team, and they absolutely put on a show. Although Justin Jefferson was the leader, overall in that game, Puka Nacua, 7 catches, 106 yards, but Cooper Kupp not far behind them, and they kind of just outgunned the Minnesota offense. No turnovers really for this team. Stafford had 279 yards. He had 4 touchdowns and an interception for the Rams. But, man, it was a Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp show. Kupp had 5 catches and a touchdown. And you really just kind of saw what this Rams team could be with, just everybody healthy, everybody playing well. Their rookie draft pick, I believe it was Jared Verse. He had a sack and a half. He had 3 tackles, and he also had a tackle for loss. So the Rams kind of getting healthy. kind of getting some momentum, keeping pace in this NFC West, which has been very close to up and down. A new first place team almost every week, but it looks like the ship, we'll see what happens when Christian McCaffrey comes back. But the Rams, man, I'd watch out. They're a stubborn team, and they're a team that won't go away. For the Vikings, on the other hand, this was another loss, their second in a row. It just really seemed like they couldn't get going outside of Justin Jefferson, who had 115 yards. Josh Oliver with the only passing touchdown amongst the receiving core. Sorry, you had Trent Sherfield as well, but it wasn't, the stars of this team weren't really shining outside of Justin Jefferson. Aaron Jones held to 58 carries and 3.1 yards per attempt. But it's just, Darnold had a good passer rating, but they just couldn't seem to keep pace. The defense wasn't clicking as well. It looks like Sean McVay kind of unlocked it and figured out how to defend against this cover zero that Brian Flores likes to run. And you have two dynamic receivers, and Kyron Williams had a good game as well. But the Rams put it out of reach from the Vikings and handed them their second loss in a row. And now we could be staring at a Vikings team that may be looking at a third loss in a row. They're going to be trying to avoid that this week. But man, all of a sudden you kind of look at the Vikings and think they're up against the ropes here. But I expected their momentum to cool at some point. I just didn't expect two in a row from this team that had played so very well over the course of the last few weeks. They go from undefeated and now they're 5-2, and they will be facing Indianapolis, who has a lot of problems themselves. We will actually preview that game, as that is the Sunday night game this week. We'll have that game and game previews coming up a little bit later. Moving on, so we had the Falcons and the Bucks, and this was essentially for control of the division in the NFC South. The Falcons, again, they kind of kept this one out of reach. Looking at just kind of the scoring, there was a little controversy in this game with a Kyle Pitts touchdown, looking like he pulled the old early celebration and dropped the ball before he crossed the goal line. There's been a couple camera angles pop up that may have shown a little bit more than what the refs were able to see. But again, the lack of receivers for the Bucks really kind of hurt Tampa in this game. Of course, you had Godwin going down, you had Mike Evans going down. Evans will be back at some point, but they lose Godwin for the season. But Baker Mayfield, he had a good game, but he's continued this streak of throwing 3 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. And at some point, you got to think the turnovers are really going to add up for Baker Mayfield. That's been a part of his game for a while, but without just dynamic receivers, I can't put it all on him. When your leading receiver is your tight end in this game with Cade Otton, who had 2 touchdowns, they're going to have to rely on this run game. And they have the rookie Bucky Irving. Rachaad White had a good game, a somewhat okay game. He was averaging 4.8 yards a carry. They split the load, but they got to figure it out what life after these 2 receivers is going to be like. Because tight end is a good go-to, especially if they're going to want to try these short throws. They're going to have to and figure out who can be the big play guy until Mike Evans gets back. But the Falcons too much for the Bucks and keeping this just at arm's length to win by 5. This game, though, surprised me, and it showed me that I can't trust Seattle. I can't trust Seattle at all. 1 week they can beat the brakes off of a team. They can look like one of the best teams in the NFC. They can be amazing, and then they go up against some real competition like Buffalo and get it absolutely handed to them at home, 31-10. And honestly, the Seahawks got that last touchdown in garbage time. Josh Allen was on fire in this game. connecting with Amari Cooper a couple times and really starting to develop that connection and show everyone that, the Bills are for real and they aren't really mourning over the loss of Stephon Diggs, and allowing getting Amari Cooper has allowed these other two receivers, Khalil Shakir and Keon Coleman, to start opening up because teams are more focused on Amari Cooper. Cooper really didn't show up in the stat sheet on this one. It was a lot of it was Shakir and Coleman. Shakir with 170 yards, Coleman with 70 yards and a touchdown. They even was able to get Dalton Kincaid in for a touchdown as well. But I mean, this offense has taken new life with at least just the threat of Amari Cooper there. And of course, James Cook having a good day on the ground as well. 111 yards and 2 touchdowns. Buffalo's not going away. After that loss to Houston, where Josh Allen only completed nine passes the whole game, and they really kind of have turned it around. Hey Hunter, happy pre-Halloween Tuesday. Happy Halloween to you guys. I'm gonna be split. I'm gonna go trick-or-treating, but then hurry home for the Texans game. Of all days for the Texans to play. They play on Halloween. But yeah, happy pre-Halloween, guys. I'm sorry I don't have a whole lot more Halloween themed on the stream tonight. But promise there is going to be plenty of candy around this house. Don't get me wrong. Wait till you guys see what me and Braden are going to be for Halloween. How's it going, Missy? Go Broncos. Yeah, I got a lot to say about the Broncos tonight too. They're rolling, but back to this Buffalo and Seattle game. Looking at Seattle, Geno Smith, not a great day. He was accurate, 212 yards, but he had the interception. He's averaging about 7.3 per attempt. But they just couldn't get anyone going, and you could tell this team really missed DK Metcalf. He's out with injury right now, but I mean, you've got other weapons on this team. Kenneth Walker, Jackson Smith-Njigba, if I can talk tonight. They need to get more involved with DK Metcalf out, but the Buffalo defense is very, very well coached. They have one of the better defenses in the league. But Mike McDonald's smarter than this. And at least defensively they could keep it close. But man, I just can't trust Seattle. They're up and down. Geno Smith plays well, but he needs all of his pieces there. And you could tell losing DK Metcalf really threw them off. And we'll see, because Metcalf's going to be out a few more games. We'll see if this is what's going to cause Seattle to fall off. But again, Bills rolling in the AFC. Keep an eye on them, especially they may smell blood in the water with Houston losing Stephon Diggs, and they may try and make a run to take over that number 2 seed in the AFC. Moving on to Sunday Night Football, Dallas goes to San Francisco. And this was a game that was described, if the Cowboys had an opportunity to hang one on San Francisco, this was it, because they had guys banged up. They had guys who this team was hurt both offensively and defensively. It kind of seemed like the Niners were up against the ropes a little bit, especially because this division has been so close. They haven't been playing up to their potential, but Dallas is still Dallas. Dak Prescott had a couple of interceptions, a couple of bad interceptions too. And then, of course, you saw the play where Trayvon Diggs actually ended up confronting a reporter after the game, where he just kind of got blown away by George Kittle and absolutely looked lost. Not as lost as Tre'Davious White, which we will cover later on. But, yeah, Brock Purdy throwing for 260 yards. Dak had 2 interceptions. They couldn't get it going. This is another game where you looked at and said, man, if Dallas had a better run game, if Dallas had, I don't know, an Ezekiel Elliott, a Josh Jacobs, a Joe Mixon, Saquon Barkley, one of these guys that were out there and affordable, Dallas still has $23 million in cap space, but they're not going to go add somebody. You think they might have been had a better chance at this game. At one point Dallas was down, I believe 30-17, add 14 in the fourth quarter, but Seattle just kind of gets it and runs the clock out. Again, more dysfunction from the Cowboys. And this is just one of those things where it's like Dallas is not going to be who they think they are until they change the culture in this organization. And I saw it. I saw a picture just from a column. You know how news organizations or websites or something like that, they'll post a picture with the headline on it, and it said someone was calling Dak Prescott a front runner, and I'm like, that's exactly what the Cowboys are. If they are playing from ahead, the Cowboys, you can't stop the Dallas Cowboys. But if they have to play from behind, then Dallas is going to be Dallas has a challenge. They can't play from behind. They can't face adversity, and they end up making a ton of mistakes. They end up making boneheaded mistakes. And Dak again, 243 yards, but two touchdowns, two interceptions. No one broke 50 yards rushing for Dallas. I don't know what they're thinking having Zeke Elliott out there. He did get a touchdown. Dalvin Cook showed up in this game. He averaged 2 yards a carry. CeeDee Lamb did have a good game for you CeeDee Lamb fantasy owners out there. 146 yards, two touchdowns. But it really was the George Kittle show. Isaac Uriendo, the rookie that they got, he carried the ball 14 times for 85 yards. Jordan Mason had 18 yards on 6 carries. So they were kind of spreading the ball around on the ground, but Brock Purdy really just kind of took care of the ball, 260 yards and a touchdown through the air. And the Niners didn't really need to do much to win this game. They didn't really need to go all out to beat the Cowboys, just had to keep them ahead and let them beat themselves, which is what they did, to send the Cowboys to 3-4. We go to Monday Night Football. Giants and the Steelers in a game that we thought was not going to have any touchdowns at all. It was going to be all field goals. And then we had a punt return for a touchdown. And some weirdness in this game where there was a clear roughing the punter, running into the punter that was missed, that would have given the Giants the ball back and possibly even given them the game. Daniel Jones made some decent throws in this game until the end when, the Steelers and just that great defense really started clamping down on them. Najee Harris was awesome in this game. Over 100 yards. He had a couple touchdowns. And the Steelers look different with Russell Wilson. Sorry, Najee Harris did not have a touchdown, but he was at 114 yards. He did have a couple touchdowns called back. And otherwise, and if he hadn't, this game would have been way out of hand way earlier. Russell Wilson, again, a good game, 20 of 28, 278 yards and a touchdown. This team looks different with Russell Wilson, and I'm not afraid. I'll give credit where credit is due. I have been harsh on Russell Wilson the last year, longer than that. But the last couple of years I've done the show, I've been harsh on Russell Wilson. He has injected a new life into this Steelers team, and they are absolutely a threat with this, they're absolutely a threat with this team, with this organization. And Russell Wilson at quarterback, Najee Harris running up the ball. And you've got Pickens out there, Freiermuth. TJ Watt is playing at an unreal level. I don't see the Steelers, especially now that they're first place in the division, I don't see the Steelers being an easy out. I don't see the Steelers being a team that's going to be easy to take down. As long as Russell Wilson can keep playing like this, where he doesn't have to do everything, you can have Najee Harris run the ball, just steamroll people, and keep the ball in your hands. And as long as Russell Wilson can make a couple of plays a game and not have all the pressure on him, this team is going to be good. This team is going to be really good. The Giants, on the other hand, Daniel Jones, 264 yards and a touchdown. Darius Slayton, 108 yards. Here's the thing about the Giants. They've got two really good receivers, three if you count Robinson. And Malik Neighbors could be a bona fide number one receiver. He's got a decent chemistry with Daniel Jones, but you could tell if they just had a better quarterback, the Giants could be a much better team. And their defense is playing well. They're leading the league in sacks right now. Dexter Lawrence is having a hell of a year, and he is putting fear into some offensive lines. But the offense of the Giants just can't keep up. They can't hold up their end of the bargain. Not really great at running the ball. Although, Tracy Jr. had 145 yards. He was actually a nice little revelation for the Giants. Tyrone Tracy Jr., 20 carries, 145 yards, and a touchdown. He played pretty well in this game. But again, man, Daniel Jones just he can't take care of the ball. He's not going to get it done. He could be good for a game or two, but they are absolutely, I feel like they're absolutely going to be looking for a quarterback in the draft. I was looking at the numbers today. There's no more guaranteed money on his contract, but he is a $22 million cap hit if he is cut or traded in the offseason. And the Giants are in position, I believe, to draft a quarterback if, things keep going the way they're going, which might be cheaper. They may take the Daniel Jones cap hit on the chin and draft a new quarterback. I could see them drafting a quarterback and having a quarterback competition as well with Daniel Jones if they don't want to eat the cap hit. But I'm going to say this, and it'll come up again in buy or sell. I wonder how much longer he is going to be a Giant, because it's clearly looking like there are pieces now around him. There are guys that could make a difference for this team. I believe they need a better running back. Although if Tracy keeps playing the way he did on Monday night, they may have solved that problem. So it's a Daniel Jones thing. And the only thing that's holding him there is that contract. I believe they've got a decent amount of cap space next year. We'll see if they're willing to eat that cap hit. But right now, the Giants are stuck with Daniel Jones, and they're going to keep being held back from games that they could win if things keep going the way that they're going. Well, that does it for the slate of highlighted games for this week. Guys, be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Definitely get the notifications up on the YouTube and Twitch. We still are looking for those 50 followers, so that way we can get to affiliate status on Twitch. And we want to do, subscriber only fantasy, subscriber only betting. We're still going to have our normal stream for everybody every Tuesday night, but we want to do a little bit of extra. So yeah, let's get the Twitch going, get up to those 50 subscribers so we can go have some fun. Again, guys, go check out my sponsor, the Phone Medic of Amarillo, Canyon, and Lubbock, for your laptop needs, for your cell phone, tablet, gaming PC, console needs. Go check out the Phone Medic of Amarillo, Canyon, and Lubbock. Tell Gabe Ryan from the Extra Point sent you, and he'll get you taken care of. Right now, it's 3 up and 3 down. This is where we're going to go 3 up for the week. Some of my favorite performers for the week, some guys that I think need to be highlighted, and then we're going to go 3 down, guys. We should all, point and laugh at. So first up on the up list is the Los Angeles Rams. And again, this was an interesting turnaround, because going into the game on Thursday, a lot of people were saying, the Rams are going to have a fire sale. Cooper Kupp is on the block. Matt Stafford is on the block. The Rams are going to start looking at rebuilding. And then all of a sudden they get Kupp and Nacua back. They win this game. And the Rams might be buyers at the trade deadline to try and make a playoff push. So Los Angeles turning it around and turning the narrative around in just a few days that's going to land you on the up list. And I'm thinking Los Angeles could keep the momentum up. I'm pulling up their schedule right now, but the Rams, it's doable for them. Their next game is the Seahawks this weekend in Seattle, and we just saw the Seahawks get it handed to them by the Bills. The Rams could go on a little bit of a streak here, because they've won 2 in a row. They beat the Raiders, won against the Vikings. I think they have a very winnable game against the Seahawks Then they got the Dolphins at home on Monday Night Football. But the Dolphins, they just got beat by I believe Arizona this past weekend. I'm looking at there's a lot to remember. Yeah, they got beat by Arizona on a last minute field goal with the return of Tua Tagovailoa. And I was saying this before Tua got hurt. The Dolphins were in trouble. They weren't looking like they were last week, even against lesser opponents. So the Rams could hang another one on Seattle, and then get one against Miami and get themselves a nice little streak going. But yeah, up on the up list this week is the Los Angeles Rams. Next up, Jameis Winston finally gets his shot with the Cleveland Browns. Clearly the best quarterback on that roster. He gets the start and goes off 27 of 41, 344, 3 touchdowns, and they beat one of the hottest teams in the league, made Lamar Jackson's life miserable in that game. But Jameis Winston had some beautiful touchdowns in that game. And this Cleveland team finally looked like a team that unlocked their potential with Deshaun Watson out for the season. But yeah, Jameis Winston, you land on the up list this week. And going forward, this was actually the first week we had 2 Cleveland Browns players in a row on the up list. So I think things are looking up in Cleveland, even though they got a lot of work to do with the record. But if Winston can keep playing like this, getting Nick Chubb back, getting David Njoku, opening up Jerry Jeudy a little bit more, and the defense is still playing very well. You still have Myles Garrett, the defensive player of the year on that defense. Cleveland could go on a little bit of a run here, and I wouldn't put it past them to start making a little bit of noise. They got the Chargers coming up, which I think that's going to be a pretty hard-hitting physical game, but it's a game, I think, with Jameis Winston that the Browns could win. And then they go to the Saints, and the Saints are absolutely a mess right now. I know they're looking at getting Derek Carr back, but even with Derek Carr, they were losing some momentum. I know he got hurt, but the Saints are in a tailspin, and this is another winnable game for Cleveland. And we could see them, at the end of these next 2 weeks, by Thanksgiving, having 4 wins going into the Steelers game. But yeah, I'm looking at this Browns team and keeping an eye on them and seeing how good they are with Jameis Winston. And for the top of the mountain, was there any debate? Was there any other option for the top of the mountain this week than Jayden Daniels? I'm not gonna lie, that was the play of the year. Hail Mary at the end of the game, routine, bat the ball down, but there was just so much going into that game. And that's a game where it was a very gritty, battle it out in bad weather game. The Bears were a little bit more physical. Caleb Williams had an efficient game, but this was an on the ground, bad weather, get your hands dirty, beat each other up type of game. And then Jayden Daniels in the last play and that Hail Mary just unloads a pass to Noah Brown and just had a miracle. And to me, if I'm looking at a play at a moment that sealed Rookie of the Year for Jayden Daniels, it was that one right there. And Washington again expands their lead in the NFC East, 6-2. Although Philly's right on their tail, but man, you can't help but applaud what Jayden Daniels did in that game. Well, we went 3 up, and now it's time to go 3 down, and down is the Tennessee Titans, man. And I know this is kind of kicking somebody when they're down. This is kind of kicking, the weakest of the bunch. But it's the Tennessee Titans, and I'm going to do so anyway because they're the fake Oilers. Sorry, Tennessee fans. But, I mean, it is a complete tailspin in Tennessee. I feel like they are going to go into full-blown rebuild mode if they can convince Amy Adams Strunk to do so. I don't see Brian Callahan lasting past this season. They're going to have a new quarterback. Right now, I believe they are slated number 2 in the draft behind the New England Patriots. Behind the Carolina Panthers. And there's a lot that this team needs to have done in order to get them competitive again. They did trade off DeAndre Hopkins this week. I imagine Calvin Ridley is going to be gone at some point, maybe even Tony Pollard. We'll see if Tennessee is a seller at the trade deadline. They've already benched, the guy that they were hoping to be their franchise quarterback in Will Levis in favor of Mason Rudolph. But Tennessee is just in an absolute tailspin. And I'm, like I said in my reactions, could you see anything else going on in this game in Detroit against the hottest team in the league, a team that I'm basically going to say is the Kansas City Chiefs of the NFC right now? They just absolutely got mopped with Detroit, and it was not even a contest. And I believe they outgained Detroit too, because Detroit just kind of kept running it on special teams or having big plays and quick possessions. Now the next two, this was a hard decision because it came down between these two. They were definitely on the down list this week, but it came down between these two and for Factory of Sadness this week. And it was what happened today that really decided it for me. But we'll go. You guys will probably figure out who gets Factory of Sadness after I reveal the next on the down list. But on the down list, Tyreek Stevenson, man. I mean, just watching that video, having your back completely turned to the play, having the fans point out, hey, dude, they snapped the ball. And then the guy that you were supposed to box out makes the game-winning grab for the win in a game and on a play where if you knock it down, you win the game. But Tyreek Stevenson, go watch the video. It's one of the biggest fails I've seen in the NFL. He apologized afterwards, and he should have. But this isn't the first time Tyreek Stevenson's antics have cost him. You remember what he was jaw-jacking with Nico Collins in the Texans game and then absolutely got floored. But yeah, Tyreek Stevenson, you're on the down list this week. Just, dude, don't start the trash talking until the game is over, man. Just don't start it until you've won. This week, Factory of Sadness, Anthony Richardson. And like I said, what happened today determined who got the Factory of Sadness this week. 2 of 15 after the first quarter. You have a 44%. You had a 44% completion percentage going into the game. I believe after this game, you were at 50%. You were broken 50% completion percentage. It was 50.2, I believe. There was only one quarterback worse than you, and that was Will Levis. Out of the qualifying quarterbacks, the starting quarterbacks who have thrown more than 100 passes. But the worst part about this was tapping yourself out and claiming that you were tired. That has been on the minds of everyone this past couple of days. You have lost a lot of respect. And I want to pose this question to you guys in the chat. You guys can discuss what is something that would make you tap out. Anthony Richardson tapped out after basically running from his life from the Texans defensive line. But what is something that makes you guys tap out? What are you guys tapping out on for a little bit if you had to? Anthony Richardson tapping out from having to run for his life, which subsequently caused the team to tap out in the game because that was 3rd and goal from the 23 that he came out on. And but yeah, sound off in the chat, guys. What are you guys tapping out on in honor of Anthony Richardson tapping out in the game? So with that, we're gonna go to buy or sell. This is another one where you guys can interact too. But I'm gonna throw out a take. You guys can let me know if you guys are buying or selling, and I'll let you guys know what I think of it as well. But first up on buy or sell, is it time to watch out for the Philadelphia Eagles? They are, I believe, 5-3 in the division, 5-2 in the division right now. They are second. Look out for those Philadelphia Eagles, man. They are on the rise. They absolutely took it to the Cincinnati Bengals this past week. They've won 3 in a row. Granted, it was Browns, Giants, Bengals. They got the Cowboys this week on CBS, and then they got the Commanders. They got the Jaguars this week. I apologize. My screen kind of scrolled up on me. But they got the Jaguars this week, who played the Packers pretty well. If you know, and I got something on the Packers. I wanna go with this too. But is it time to watch out for the Philadelphia Eagles? I'm actually gonna sell this one because of the teams that they beat. You beat the Browns that had Deshaun Watson. You beat them by 1 score. You did what you should have done with the Giants and the Bengals and absolutely wiped the floor with them. The Bengals don't really have a defense, and they're running into the same problem of not being able to protect Joe Burrow. And then, of course, the Giants are just an absolute mess to begin with. But I am selling this right now because you got the Jaguars and the Cowboys coming up. The Jaguars have been able to give teams problems, so I want to see if they can handle that. But to me, I'm selling this until they get to the middle of November, because then their stretch is Commanders, Rams, and Ravens. And I think that's where we're really going to see what this Philadelphia team is. We're really going to see who this Philadelphia team can be. Man, I'm not gonna lie. Like I'm on the fence with Philly. I think they can be good, but I think once they match up against the better teams, especially we'll see how they do against the Commanders. But this feels like a mirage. This feels like, yeah, they can beat the lesser teams in the league, but again, this stretch of games, Commanders, Rams, Ravens, and I'm curious. I think how they handled themselves against the Jaguars, who took the Packers to the limit this past week. That's going to kind of give me some more evidence as whether or not I should buy this. But as of right now, I am selling the Philadelphia Eagles. Next up on buy or sell, we'll go check the comments here real quick. Next up on buy or sell, should we trust the Green Bay Packers? 2 weeks in a row, they've had to rely on last-second field goals to win the games. 2 weeks in a row, Jordan Love has turned the ball over. And I believe he turned the ball over multiple times against the Texans. I want to see if he did the same thing against Jacksonville. He did have an interception, and he didn't have a touchdown. They've been relying on Josh Jacobs a lot, and their defense has played pretty well. But the Packers have been playing things pretty close. And this is a team, of course, they're in the NFC North. They are playing in the hottest division in football right now. They are a team that is just they're hot or cold, but I feel like sometimes they play down to their competition. Green Bay, 6-2. They're, I believe, about a game back. We're gonna see just kind of who they really are against this Lions team. They've had some decent tests that they've passed, but they shouldn't be going down to a last-second field goal against the Jacksonville Jaguars with everything that's been happening in Jacksonville. It shouldn't have to come down to that. I feel like they should have decisively won that game. And now you've got Detroit coming to town, and they are absolutely on a roll. So I'm selling. I'm not trusting the Green Bay Packers right now. Now, if they beat the Lions, if they can beat the Lions, then yes, I will absolutely put my trust in Green Bay Packers, no matter how many turnovers Jordan Love throws, because that means the defense is playing at an absolute lights out level, which they have been. If I'm looking at their defense, they're kind of middle of the pack right now. They're really good. They're kind of middle of the pack, but they've been better against the pass than they have against the run. They're still allowing over 100 yards rushing, but they're under 250 yards passing for the year. But their defense, again, just kind of been middle of the pack. But right now, I want to see how they play against Green Bay, and if Jordan Love can solve this turnover problem before I say, yes, I'm going to trust the Green Bay Packers. Next up on buy or sell, Deshaun Watson has played his last NFL snap. Man, I'm thinking about buying this because Achilles tear, and especially if Jameis Winston gets them on a roll and can at least get them close, maybe in consideration for the playoffs, give them a respectable record. And there was a stark contrast to how this team operated with Jameis Winston on the field versus Deshaun Watson. Hadn't had a game over 300 yards, hadn't had a game where they had scored more than 20 points, hadn't looked competent on offense at all, hadn't got their stars going. I get having Nick Chubb back another week helps almost any quarterback, but Jameis Winston rallied this team around him in the preseason. He was the one giving the warm-up speeches, as crazy as they may sound. He was the one, trust me, if you need some entertainment, go listen to a Jameis Winston warm-up speech. But this team rallied around him. The locker room rallied around Jameis Winston. And it showed in this game because they had Baltimore against the ropes in this game for quite a bit. And I know you still had Derrick Henry putting up numbers. Lamar Jackson still had a good game, but they hung with a team that was one of the hottest teams, if not the hottest team in the AFC. But with this, I know Watson's got an over $75 million cap hit the next 2 years. But man, if Winston keeps playing like this, and he's able to elevate this team, I could see Deshaun Watson being the highest paid backup in the league, a $45 million a year backup, because this team clearly is not in the best position to win with him. Everybody knew that. No matter what Kevin Stefanski said, Stefanski knew it as well, and he saw it play out this past week. And if next year same thing happens and they still want to go with Deshaun Watson, I mean, that's if Kevin Stefanski's still there, that is a slap in the face to Jameis Winston because he may have just saved his job. But you cannot be a prisoner to money in this situation with Deshaun Watson. If they release him and decide to eat the cap hit, then I don't think another team's going to pick him up. They're definitely not going to trade for him. And they don't want to have a guy with Deshaun Watson's baggage as a backup. So, yeah, I'm going to buy Deshaun Watson has played his last NFL snap. And that's a shame because I used to when he was a Texan, man, I was behind Deshaun Watson. Another one, Daniel Jones. I mentioned this a little bit earlier in the show. This is his last year in New York. I said he's got no more guaranteed money on his contract this year. He's got a $22 million cap hit next year, which doesn't taste great for most teams. But if they are in position to draft a quarterback, and there's some decent ones coming out in the draft this year. If they are in position to draft a quarterback, I could see them finding a way to part ways with Daniel Jones, especially if they part ways with GM Joe Schoen. We all saw how that played out on Hard Knocks this year and just kind of how unwilling they were to move on from Saquon Barkley. But he's tied to the GM. And if the GM goes, I think the next GM is going to figure out a way to move on from Daniel Jones, whether they trade him and get another team to eat some of the cap hit, or whether or not they just move on from him completely and say, hey, there's no more guaranteed money, and thanks for everything. We're going to go with this new quarterback. But I'm going to buy this. This probably is going to be Daniel Jones' last year in New York. With that, we're going to go to our game previews. But before we get to that, again, want to say, hey, guys, like, share, subscribe, whether you're on YouTube, Twitch, or Facebook. We want to grow the show. We want to get the show out to as many people as possible. Send Andy your well wishes as well, guys. He's out sick tonight. Been in bed all day. But yeah, Andy he should be back next week. But send Andy your well wishes, guys. And tell him to get well soon in the chat, that we all miss him. But like, share, subscribe. We want to get to the 50 on Twitch, so that way we can go ahead and get some subscriber exclusive stuff. And we want to do the same on YouTube too, once we're able to do subscriptions on YouTube. But yeah, grow the show, guys. We want to get to those 50. We're about halfway there. And of course, go check out my sponsor, the Phone Medic of Amarillo, Canyon, and Lubbock, for all of your tech needs. But yeah, guys, let's get into these game previews. As always, the lines are based off of what is on ESPN for by ESPN Bet. So you guys can, for you bettors out there, you can have a little bit of insight and go check it out more with ESPN Bet. So we start Thursday night with my Houston Texans, 6-2 at the New York Jets. And this one's kind of got me a little flustered as to why I get you usually skew the spread, the favorites towards the home team, but the Jets are 2-6. And I know they've got a good defense. I know that they've got a defense that's, it's formidable. You got Quinnen Williams there. You're getting Hassan Reddick back. Sauce Gardner hasn't played the best, but he's still dangerous. And this is still a good defense. But they're allowing almost 126 yards a game rushing. Joe Mixon has had 3 consecutive games with 100 yards. So they're vulnerable in the run, and I know they're one of the better teams against the pass. And the Texans have some questions to ask with Stephon Diggs going down, Nico Collins not being there. Questions all along the offensive line. I know that Kenyon Green got benched in this last game, but man, this is a little disrespectful, I think, to the Houston Texans, because CJ Stroud is a better quarterback. And I know the last time he was there, it was crappy weather. He played awful. The defense got to him, but there's no Robert Saleh there this time. And their offense is completely in disarray. I know you're looking at it and you say, oh, this is an Aaron Rodgers effect. But, I mean, the Jets are just, they're not good. And they're towards the bottom half of the league. They're allowing, they're only averaging a little over 300 yards a game. But the defense, the defense is still, again, in terms of total defense, top 5 defense, only allowing 286. But it's that rushing defense that I'm looking at, and the fact that Joe Mixon, when he is good, when he has been able to wreak havoc on teams this year. And I could see that happening this Thursday night. They're relying on the run, relying on Dalton Schultz and Tank Dell. But they got some guys that are capable with Xavier Hutchinson and John Mechie. I know you got to look out for Devontae Adams and Garrett Wilson, of course, Breece Hall. And Braylon Edwards, I believe that, Braylon Edwards, they've been playing really well. But it's just the play calling and trying to satiate what Aaron Rodgers wants. It's just led to some disjointedness, and it's just led to dysfunction on this team. And having the Jets as 2-point favorites, again, that's a little disrespectful in my book. I got the Texans tomorrow night on Thursday Night Football, even though they are shorthanded, before they get the mini bye going into the Detroit Lions game. Now we go to, this is a game that's interesting to me, because this is a game I feel like could be an upset. The Denver Broncos go to Baltimore, which is one of the harder places to play. I'm not going to lie. That, to me, is okay. I look at this and I say Baltimore by 9.5. Not surprising to me, but Denver has been a scrappy team all year. And I'm looking at their defense. The Broncos are the number 3 defense in the league overall in terms of yards per game. And Baltimore is, I'm looking, Baltimore's not in the top 10. I believe they're right in the middle of the pack as far as, they're there. They're actually towards the bottom of the league. They're right above the Dallas Cowboys. They're allowing almost 400 yards a game. And they're allowing almost 300 yards a game passing. So Bo Nix has played well these last couple of games. If I'm looking at where Denver's at right now, not really jumping off the page passing, but he's taking care of the ball. He's made some good throws. They've got they've got a great defense, and a defense that I feel like is good enough to cause problems for Lamar Jackson. I know they just traded for Deontay Johnson, but you saw last week the Browns were able to get to Lamar Jackson. The Browns were when that's possible, man, it causes all kinds of havoc on that offense. Um, they got to watch out for Derrick Henry. If I'm looking at how they are against the run, they are only allowing 106 yards running, and they're only allowing about 174 yards passing. So this Denver defense is balanced, and they're good at not letting teams, get going on offense. This is going to be an interesting game because I want to see how they handle this dynamic offense of the Baltimore Ravens, and see if they kind of use what. There's Missy. Let's go Broncos. We got this week. Missy, I am behind you on this one because I'm going upset this week. I think the Broncos are capable of going into Baltimore and winning this game, especially if they can get that defense going. So yeah, I've got the Broncos this week. Fingers crossed, my faith is rewarded. But yeah, and if they can do that, man, I'm definitely going to change the way I look at Denver. The game of the week this week. Green Bay hosting the Lions, first place in the NFC North, the biggest, the most competitive division in football. We wondered when it was time for the NFC North to start beating up on each other because we knew it was coming. These games are all going to be much anticipated because every team in this division is good. Detroit opens as 3.5-point favorites at Green Bay at Lambeau. And like I said in buy or sell, for me, it's kind of hard to trust the Packers because Jordan Love has turned the ball over in these last few games. He's played, he's made some good throws. You saw him kind of gimpy last week with the groin injury, but these are two of the better teams in the NFC. Some people could say, hey, potential NFC championship matchup. Yeah, definitely. I could see it. But the Lions are absolutely on a tear. Of course, they discarded the Tennessee Titans last week. Green Bay's got a good defense, but man, you cannot discount that Detroit Lions offense. They're top five. They're the fifth ranked offense in the league. Averaging 385 yards a game, efficient with the passing. One of the better rushing offenses in this league. David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs have been terrorizing defenses these past couple weeks. And David Montgomery has just been an absolute physical runner, just mowing people over. And of course, Jahmyr Gibbs, your big play guy. I'm so happy I got him on my fantasy team this year. He has been very well appreciated. But yeah, then you got Josh Jacobs, who has been a monster for the Green Bay Packers. You've got Romeo Doubs, Jaden Daniels not Jaden, that's the quarterback for the Washington Commanders. Sorry, guys. It's been a long day. Jaden Reed, sorry. Yeah, you've got Jaden Reed, big play threat. Romeo Doubs have been playing well. They've got a good defense with Jair Alexander. And this is going to be a fight. This is going to be a scrappy game. And I believe it's the first one of the year for them. Yeah, because the North hasn't really played each other. This is going to be the first one of the year for them. And I mean, I feel like it could come down to these two teams determining the division because Minnesota, I believe, is starting to fall off a little bit. And the Bears, yeah, you can see where the Bears are headed after this past weekend. But this is going to be a slugfest. I can see this ended up being a shootout. I want to see how much of a difference Aiden Hutchinson not being there makes, because if there is going to be a game where that is felt, it is going to be this one. And especially when Josh Jacobs runs the ball and the Lions need to get to the quarterback. So I think that's where you're really going to see Aiden Hutchinson being missed. But in this game, I am going to go with the Lions because, like I said, I just don't trust the Packers. I don't trust the Packers right now, but if they beat the Lions, it's definitely going to, kind of open my eyes a little bit. But Jordan Love's kind of gotten bit by the turnover bug these last 2 weeks. And on top of that, I want to see if that injury fires up again. But that's the best game of the week especially in the afternoon for week 9. Now we go to Sunday Night Football. The Indianapolis Colts go to Minnesota. Minnesota is a 5-point favorite in this game. The Colts will be starting Joe Flacco. They benched Anthony Richardson today, and that could be the spark this team needs. They were a playoff team last year when Anthony Richardson went down for the season behind Gardner Minshew. You've got Joe Flacco, who was kind of in a similar position last year Although his quarterback wasn't benched, he also went down for the year, but he took the Browns to the playoffs. Now, this is a team that has, I want to say, a little bit better weapons than the Browns did because Nick Chubb was gone as well. But, Jonathan Taylor, Alec Pierce, Pittman, Josh Downs. This is a team that if they could get going, especially if they could get going at the quarterback position, and trust me, Flacco's a much better quarterback than Anthony Richardson is, then you might want to watch out for the Colts. However, Minnesota, again, has become another almost impossible place to play. And they're not going to want to go down 3 in a row. I don't see them going down to the Colts. They did make a trade for Cam Robinson today to help boost the offensive line where they had lost one of their tackles for the year. You still got Aaron Jones. Cam Akers rejoins the team, and he had some good games with the Texans. Obviously, you want to watch out for Justin Jefferson. You want to watch out for Addison as well. And the defense is still playing really well. I got to see if I believe they got Hawkinson back. He's going to get up to speed. So I think this could be an even game because I want to see how Flacco plays. They got to figure out, we'll see if they use anything against that cover zero defense that Brian Flores likes to run. But I can't pick against the Vikings at home. It's hard. And I feel like the Colts are kind of in a tailspin right now. They got a lot of figuring out things to figure out. And they better hope Flacco doesn't go down because if Anthony Richardson gets in this game, I feel like they're going to be up the creek. But yeah, I got the Vikings in this game. They get back on the winning streak and again, get right back into the mix in the AFC North. Monday night, we got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the Kansas City Chiefs. Kansas City is 8.5-point favorites over Tampa Bay. Again, Tampa going into this game without Mike Evans and Chris Godwin weren't really able to get a whole lot of things going against Atlanta. I know they've had some moments with their running backs that have been bright spots, but Kansas City's defense is just too good. And now they've added another receiver in DeAndre Hopkins who kind of got his feet wet last week against the Raiders. One thing I will say about this, and this has been something about the Kansas City Chiefs that I have noticed, they're 7-0, but they felt beatable. They felt like they could get beat by some teams they shouldn't get beat by. Now, don't get me wrong, Andy Reid has done an amazing job coaching. And the scary thing about the Chiefs is they haven't needed Patrick Mahomes to be special. Mahomes right now has more interceptions than he does touchdowns. And you kind of I'm kind of looking at the Chiefs right now and going, when is it coming? When is this team just going to absolutely unload? When is this team going to absolutely flip the switch? And we're going to start seeing the Kansas City Chiefs we've been seeing for the last almost 10 years. Right now, and we always say this, is that the Chiefs feel beatable, even though they're undefeated. And then again, they turn it on. Tampa Bay's got a decent defense, but I just don't feel like it's going to be enough for Kansas City, especially at home at Arrowhead, one of the hardest places in football to play. So I've got the Chiefs this week. Absolutely, I don't know if they're gonna. Yeah, they'll mop the Buccaneers. I don't want to give a score prediction, but I think this could end up being a blowout too. And poor Baker, I think he's gonna have a bad game as well against that defense. That does it for the game predictions this week, guys. And now we move on to the extra picks. You guys ready to make some money via Prize Picks? I hit on 2 of them last week. Josh Allen going over and Joe Mixon going over. What about $90? Not bad. But this week, if you guys want to get in on the action, in fact, Joe Mixon just went down kind of as a special Halloween night pick, and they got a couple free squares going on. So if you guys want to get some easy money, go hop on Prize Picks. But he actually went down to 60 yards. So I would hit the over because right now I got him over 80 yards right now. That was the initial offering earlier today. But Mixon kind of got treated down for a trick-or-treat special at Prize Picks. He is over 60 yards to bet. So how Prize Picks works is you pick a couple players. You can put together a couple lineups, and you'll pick whether or not they go over that certain amount or under that certain amount. I got a season long going right now where CJ Stroud over 4,150 yards and then Patrick Mahomes over 34 touchdowns. CJ's helping me out, but Patrick Mahomes is kind of dragging me down a little bit on the season long one. I'm one and again, I'm one hit on a couple last week, but yeah, Joe Mixon right now. Again, the graphics a little wrong right now because right before I went on the show, I got an alert from Prize Picks where they treated it down to over 60 yards for Joe Mixon. They were looking at that same stat that I was, where you had the Jets letting up almost 126 yards a game on the ground. A.J. Brown for the Philadelphia Eagles, over 79.5 receiving yards. I got him going on that one as Philly will be playing. Where are they at? Where's Philly? I'm on week 8. But Philly's got a game where I feel like A.J. Brown could end up going off. They're playing Jacksonville actually this week. I apologize. I know I mentioned that earlier in the show. But they're playing Jacksonville, and I feel like A.J. Brown has a chance to go over 79.5 yards. So, guys, if you are getting in on this, hope that A.J. Brown goes over 80 yards. But and I think that it's possible against this Jacksonville team. But A.J. Brown over 80 yards. And then, of course, the big one, Jared Goff over 242.5 passing yards. This one's a little bit risky because the Green Bay Packers have a good pass defense. And this is a big one, but he's got the weapons. Amon-Ra St. Brown. I know he's not going to be with I know he's not going to have Jameson Williams. Jahmyr Gibbs is a threat in the passing game. Of course, you always got Sam Laporta there as well, too. But Jared Goff over 242.5 passing yards for this one. Those are your extra picks for this week. Guys, go check out Prize Picks. Go win you some money. Go have fun this weekend, guys. It's Halloween. I can't wait. You guys I'm gonna drop the costume here in a couple of days. Got to make a couple tweaks to it, but I think you guys are gonna end up liking it. Guys, go like and share. Go like, share, and subscribe. Go like my YouTube for you guys that love the Extra Point. Go check out my wrestling there as well. I will be in Levelland next weekend for Buzzsaw Championship Wrestling Texas. If you guys want to come see me wrestle live, and of course, guys. I got all the episodes of the Extra Picks there. We will be dropping the episode again tomorrow on Spotify, probably tomorrow night. But yeah, we'll be dropping the audio version of this episode on Spotify. Hopefully we get Andy back next week, guys. Tell Andy to get well soon. Well wishes. And again, guys, I want to continue to remind you, hey, donate to the Red Cross. Go help out the hurricane victims. There's a lot going on in this world. I know football is kind of a getaway, but those people need some help, man. Go donate to the Red Cross, even if it's just $10. And I will get the information here soon so I can flash it up on the screen. But those people, out there in the Carolinas and on the East Coast, they need some help. But that'll do it for tonight, guys. Again, like, share, subscribe on Twitch. Thank you to our sponsors, the Phone Medic of Amarillo, Canyon, and Lubbock. Guys, again, if you need some tech needs, gaming PCs, consoles, tablets, laptops, desktops, cell phones, go check out the Phone Medic of Amarillo, Canyon, and Lubbock. We get started on Halloween night with my Houston Texans traveling to the Big Apple to take on Aaron Rodgers and the New York Jets. Guys, enjoy Halloween, enjoy Week 9, and until then, goodbye and good night.